So, VK on the beat, check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1084 of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. StickerU.com. Create custom stickers, labels, tattoos, and decals for your home and your business. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Doer, the world's most comfortable pants and shorts. Save 15% with the promo code TorontoMike. Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. And Canna Cabana, the lowest prices on cannabis. Guaranteed. Over 100 stores across the country. Learn more at cannacabana.com. This week, reuniting on Toronto Mic'd are Gord Stellick and Damien Cox. Welcome, boys.
My wife Lisa said to pick up a funeral home voucher, so I don't know what she was talking about, but anyway, just good to be back here.
Tell Lisa I can get her a sweet discount.
Excellent.
Shout out to Brad Jones.
Do the cannabis and the funeral home thing, do they work? Do you get it like some of...
How old do you think Willie Nelson is, okay? That's all you need to know. Obviously, cannabis isn't doing anything to shorten any lives, but... Gentlemen, good to see you again. Off the top, Paul Hunter wrote me a note last night to say, when I said you two were going to be on together, he wrote, that'll be a fun podcast, so let's not let Paul down.
I thought it was Paul Hunter wrote last night and said, why?
Well, you obviously know. I mean, they're one of the nicest couples, him and Mary Ormsby.
They've been here. They were in the backyard.
Couple. In the backyard, you didn't put them on mic?
No, the mics were in the backyard.
Oh, I see.
No,
I see.
set up. Yeah, Damien's been back there. So in the COVID times, nobody was allowed down. Well, I guess we're still in the COVID times, but in those earlier times, pre-vaccination and everything, I would have backyard episodes. You missed out, but Damien, you had a backyard episode.
I did.
And it's pretty good back there, right?
It was memorable. It was fun. No, it was very nice, but it would be too hot out there today.
But you know, it's funny. I doubt we've been on radio together in quite a while. And
when do you think that would be?
Well, at least a decade, and it's been always a total pleasure. But this reminds me, we started just like you started the show, kind of like online dating. Like we were unintentional. It was kind of thrown together, and then we kind of got a groove. And then we had the Gord and Damien show. So it's almost like the start. There never was a master plan. You had we were pissed we weren't originally on the Fan.
And still are.
And still,
pissed.
yeah, and rightly so, because all those other people left. And then you got to do Sunday mornings. I filled in a bit. We got to do some work with Showman.
You're leaving out the good part.
What's the good part?
Well, I did Sunday mornings with Leo Cahill. So they wanted to do. I know you didn't ask a question, but we don't.
No, I want to hear the Gord and Damo origin story.
We don't need any questions.
Go ahead.
So I had only met Gord 3 years earlier when he did me it was so helpful. I met him, and like 3 months later he quit as GM. So I had no contact. I had one contact, and then I went to zero contacts. And then this is what 3 years later, right? 3 years.
Well, you ran me out of town in 3 months, but anyway, that's different.
But you came back.
That's correct. I came back.
You did come back, and then they wanted to do like this is in the early days. They wanted to do like a Sunday morning football show. Now, how I got chosen?
Yeah, I know.
To do this.
It's true. How did you get chosen?
How did I get chosen? Anyways. And believe me, there were many mornings when I sat there with Leo Cahill and wondered, how did I get chosen? Because Leo had absolutely no time for me, like zero. He didn't respect me in any way, shape, or form. And I mean, he'd been in football for over 1,000 years at that point, and I'd been doing radio for 7 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so it got so bad, I finally said to Gord, "Why don't you come in?"
I was like, because I love the Toronto Argonauts, and you like the personal side, but it was called Football Sunday,
right?
So Leo did think it was Football Sunday with Leo Cahill.
That's right.
But you were the host of it all, so he kind of thought you were irrelevant. And of course, you're not a shrinking violet. I don't know if you know that, Damien. You're
No.
not a shrinking violet.
No, I'm a different kind of violet.
So as time went on, I came in as Judge Wapner a little bit, whatever.
That's
and then football season ended, and we just picked up the Sunday show. Alan said, well, let's just keep doing 9 a.m. till 12 noon Sundays. That's all we did. And we really got some mojo and energy. And then the next summer, we were formally put together on air. So that's why when I kind of kid about it, we used to have, we'd come in and Dan Schulman would be, like, what better world than Dan Schulman hosting, right? You know, something like that for an hour on a panel. So this is how we kind of got thrown together.
And
That's
do
right.
you know approximately what year we're talking about?
1992. Because the fan started in 1992.
And it actually didn't last that long.
Which is that?
Like, but it's really nice to hear people make reference to when you and Gord did a show together. It was great. It was so nice. I think it was less than 2 years that we actually did the show.
Well, yeah. But anyway, our show started in the summer of '93. We got Alan Davis made some changes, and good on Mike Inglis because he's been a long time host or play-by-play guy for Miami Heat, but he had not really worked out in the morning, and then not really worked out in the afternoon. So there weren't a lot more spots left. No, actually it was awkward because he was a good guy and he was doing updates, and then he would talk on the talk back going, yeah, I can't put food on the table because of you guys. Like, we didn't do anything to you, right? And anyway, he moved on to the Miami Heat and all. Anyway, so a lot of people did well. So yeah,
now, did this happen at the same time McCowan moved to the morning show? Did this happen simultaneously with that? Or did that happen later?
McCowan already was in the morning. Shulman was still doing the afternoons because what happened 6 months later, unexpectedly, Shulman got the TSN job, so McCowan came back, right? The baseball job.
And then who did the morning? Was that Marsden and those guys?
It was Derringer first on his own, and then they brought Pat Marsden in with Derringer. Yeah,
See, he knows all this stuff.
No, that's why. What a great guest for Toronto Mike, because he can remind us.
I told
of
you, I am again, as with Leo, I'm basically irrelevant here.
To fill in Damien's role, Damien is the big part why Gordon Damien, lasted as long as, I don't know, My Mother the Car or whatever legendary shows they
It
talked
started
about.
out, by the way, as Damien and Gord, and then got switched to
Gord and Damien. Because you got to fill me in, but because Mary Ormsby was on with Steve Simmons.
Correct.
And then you had someone in the Toronto Star who took over, decided he would not have allowed it, but you were already committed. So the rest of your term, you had to reference the Toronto Star every time you talked. And then also it got weird about Leaf stuff because he kind of said that was, their possession. So you'd be big on doing like a Utah Jazz game or something, just to whatever. And Mary, same kind of thing. And really, I think you guys left. And then shortly after, whoever the Star flipped, and they said, well, this is the best publicity the Star could get. So all of a sudden you were back, I wouldn't say larger than ever initially, but yeah, I'd say our Gordon Damien only lasted about 15 months, but you were constantly a part of it after that. And then when you filled in when I was on the mornings, it was great as well.
There you go. Are we done?
Thanks for coming, guys. Here's some gifts.
It does show you how much. In fact, I was speaking about this to somebody the other day, how much stuff has changed. So let's just go back to that time. Newspapers are king in Toronto.
Huge.
They run the city. It's the Star, the Globe, the Sun, and the
National Post was there.
But was it there by then? I don't know. I think it came a little late. Anyways, but the all the news came from the newspapers. All the breaking news. All the most of the biggest profile people, except for Bob McCown and a couple of TV guys, are all at the newspapers. And then 24-hour radio starts up. And everybody has to go, okay, well, first of all, they go, where are we going to get people to go on 24-hour radio? So part of the answer is newspapers. Newspapers and unemployed general managers. and then the newspapers are going, well, is this good for us? Do we really want this? And I mean, when you look back on it from now and the way things are in the city now, it's kind of extraordinary to remember. And remember, the internet had just started.
Oh, it was like zero at that point.
Yeah.
Like just Al Gore hadn't really polished it yet.
Yes. And so, and within a pretty short period of time, actually, radio and the Fan 590, or it was Fan 1430, and then
1430 then became
Right.
actually when it was 1430 and switched to 590. Jim Richards one day drove north to find how, and he would check in as he just kept driving how strong our 590 signal was. I love dumb stuff like that. It was just great.
How far did he get? Do you remember?
Well, a lot farther than 1430, which went to Bloor and Young, I think. So like he was past
funny.
Barrie and whatever. But you had the license, just guys or women would pick up and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and then it quickly became, oh man, I can find out what's going on much faster than waiting for tomorrow's paper or waiting for, TSN to come on with their sportscast at night, and that's how it caught fire.
And I like the fact, to the odd time, Damien would be, the paper wars were so big. We were so fortunate. Great sports sections,
Yeah,
great
really
sports
was.
writers. But then he could be a little full of himself. I know he's really tempered down a little bit since then. So he would push a Toronto.
Can we talk about me again?
A
soon?
Toronto Star scoop. So he'd talk about, hey, scoop. And I know the Toronto Sun guys would call me pissed off, like, frickin' Damien, whatever. Just kind of like, we had that 4 days ago or whatever.
But that's how the newspaper started to understand why this worked, because
Yeah.
you could use it to promote
Right.
their brand.
Right.
They were a little slow off the mark, though.
It's funny that to think of a time when they would go to you and say, like, stop being so exposed. Like,
Yes.
we don't need this PR.
Well, and I think
It's free
now,
PR, by the way.
what is it? Almost 30
Earned
years
media,
later,
we call
30
it.
years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
There is, though, like, it's now of value to have somebody exclusively, and people will pay for it. So, for example, I think we're just hearing the news that David Faraday is jumping to the new Live Golf thing, because they will want him exclusively as the voice. And so now, all these years later, instead of these guys doing, like we did, 27 things,
Right.
different things,
Right.
they want them to do one, and they're willing to pay for it.
Interesting. So when you said you last broadcast together a decade ago, what was that? Like, where were you broadcasting?
Well, he would have been filling in the morning show with me, and
Really?
actually we did one when after I got rinsed, and then
Which time?
I just only got rinsed from the Fan once, Damien. You've got rinsed more times, but anyway, you then were. You were the big star with Brunt, with McCowan, and so you hosted one. So I did a prime time with you, but then you figured out you didn't want to host because you had to work 3 hours instead of 2.
I was always good with the math.
I know.
I did
So-
the math stuff.
So we may have had the odd round. So no, but that's not us. So I think the last time you and I were together, it was 2010, because I got canned in June 2010. So it was in the fall.
Okay, 12
And
years ago.
and it really energized. It was just
That long ago,
it was
eh?
like the old days. And Paul Cook, who is the morning guy for 680 News and a great friend, he's a big sports listener, and he just sent a nice email. Goes, oh man, you guys just like old times. So it was just one time.
I had a dream the other night, because I knew we were going to be here today, and then
Okay.
I had a dream we were going to come on Toronto Mike on the 1034th,
84th.
84th one, and we're going to do this show, and we're going to sound so good, and I'm going to get in my car, and we're going to get a call from someone saying, we got to have you guys back together.
Well,
And then
Damien, they're
be-
listening, right? That's the one thing. I can tell you all the decision makers are listening right now. So don't be nervous.
To which I would have then, of course, say, there's not a chance I'm working with that guy again.
Well, it's
Name your price.
boy, that's a great term, waiting for a call. I remember talking to people trying to break in the business.
Oh
I
my
go, no, there's no such thing as like.
That's true, actually.
Yeah, like even back in '92 when it started, we kind of got in Alan Davis's face a little bit. You just didn't wait for a call,
Right.
And because it was wide open terrain, and you just can't. I think Howard Berger brought you in once during the strike. The hockey strike, just before it went all sports, but just to appear on. And then there was Talking of Sports, which became Primetime Sports. So, you could get a little experience.
I remember going on when Dan was doing Sunday night or evenings,
Yeah.
and joining him. And Todd Macklin was even his producer back then.
So the best part was before it went all sports, they had, they call a soft opening in the restaurant business.
Yeah.
Well, they had this in the radio business, which now they would never do because 680 News, when it flipped like that, left 640 in the dust, right? So now, but this was a quiet, soft opening. So you had, as they called it, music of your life.
Music of your life.
Some people kiddingly called it music of your dead wife, is what it was. But anyway,
Shout out to Ridley
You
Funeral
know you
Home.
can't say that anymore.
well,
right?
that's what some people
I'm
kiddingly
just
called
telling
it.
you.
I know.
You can't. I
Okay.
just want
You
to
can't
know
even
that.
quote in context at the
I called
time.
it 30 years ago because it was older.
I was saying the same thing to him back then, Gord. You can't.
It was
say that.
older big band music, what have you.
Sure.
So for about 6 months, they'd go sports at night.
Yeah.
So a guy like Dan Shulman was like the rookie, like he was like Connor McDavid. It was unbelievable. And we kept thinking, wow, we're going to get a lot of these guys. We never got another one, right? But during the day, or parts of it was still music of your life format.
Right.
So some of the old on-air music of your life people now were ops for those 6 months of sports talk. They weren't very happy. You know, they're sitting there grumpy, because rightly so. And behind them is a producer like Todd Macklin, this new virgin territory. And people you can call hotel rooms, and players like the novelty of it, and they'll come on.
Yes.
Like he could have Dan Shulman, and all of a sudden he could get on a primo baseball player, hockey player. And we benefited from that as well.
Yes.
That Peter McPhee, the Cubby, he said, believe it or not, Todd said, go down to the morning skate. Red Wings are playing the Leafs. This is back in '93. Ask Steve Yzerman if he'll come on our show. Steve Yzerman said, yeah, tell him to call me at the hotel. Imagine that.
Really?
So, yeah, I know. Like, so 1:3 in the afternoon. Now, that ended, within a year, but we were fortunate to be in that
Well,
era.
one of the problems was that all the producers got the same idea, and everybody started calling these guys and calling them until they finally said, stop
All
calling.
right, here's a little trivia for you. Okay, so there's a recent Toronto Mic'd guest who claims to be, and I believe this to be true, he's the last guy to say the call letters CKFH on the radio, and the first person to say CJCL 1430 on the radio. Can either of you name this individual?
Would it be Joe Cannon?
Nope. Rob Cowan.
Oh, Rob Cowan. Yeah.
Rob Cowan makes that claim, and of course that's Bernard Cowan's son. So,
real good guy, but he was one of those guys, like he was on air and then probably wasn't fun for him. Although he was a very enthusiastic, upbeat individual.
Well, he would do a Foster Hewitt impersonation that would amuse Ken Daniels, for example, who would send me all these clips of him doing that.
Yeah, so Rob Cowan. So he was one of those
So
guys.
there's a trivia. I don't know if you had a bar and you need to drop a trivia on somebody. First guy, he says, who said 1430 CJCL on the air. So file that under your...
Because it was CKFH before Foster Hewitt.
Right, it was
Foster
CKFH
Hewitt.
before it was CJCL. So that was, 1430. Absolutely. All right, here's what we're going to do, guys. So there's a lot of ground to cover, and I'm going to help guide you, but mainly it will be hearing your voices, which is how it should be and how I hope it is. But I'm just going to let the FOTMs know about previous Damien Cox and Gord Stellick episodes of Toronto Mic'd, in case they want to go back and catch up.
How many times have you been on?
Twice, I think.
I've been on more than Gord. That's appropriate.
So episode 110, that was the debut on Toronto Mic'd of Damien Cox here. So I wrote the description at the time. Mike chats with longtime Toronto Star journalist.
Always long time.
and Rogers broadcaster, because remember, this is wild, Damien Cox, about his years at the Star, on the Fan 590, and on TSN and Rogers Hockey.
What year was this then?
I have to check, but this is a while ago.
Okay.
I got to check out what year. This might be
a stickler for accuracy. A while ago.
I will check that out in a minute. But we also talk about his Twitter behavior, the perception he's condescending and arrogant. And
you
then I
said that, didn't you?
Somebody said that. Somebody said that. But I got the same comments about
I
others.
defend you. It's
anyway,
exhausting.
So that's the debut, 110. Then you came back, and we kicked out the jams. So Damien Cox came back for episode 270.
I was thinking about that recently, thinking, I wonder if I'd have the same ones now. I think I might change them.
Oh, I'm sure they would change for sure. But that's we got it kind of etched in stone there.
You couldn't
at that
have
time.
Gord do that because they would all be Partridge Family and the Monkeys.
Oh, I would do that.
Oh, he loves the Partridge Family.
So then the next time, now we're at 324.
Reuben Kincaid.
Yeah, Dave Madden played him.
Yeah. In episode 324, that was Gord Stellick's debut. We chatted about his years working for Harold Ballard, being the youngest GM in NHL history, his transition to broadcasting, the Fan 1430 and 590, and what he's up to now. You know what, Gord? At the time, this might have been a record. 2 hours and 20 minutes.
I just won't shut up.
Then Damien, who caught wind of the fact that the score was 2-1, he wanted to up it to 3-1. He came back for episode 403. We talked about why he was no longer on primetime sports.
Which time was this?
Changes at Hockey Night in Canada, and his new book about the 92-93 Leafs.
Remember that team?
Yes, I do.
fact, I think I stole a lot of Gord's information using
That's
that
it.
one.
Yeah.
You're the ghost. You're the ghost
Damien
writer.
called me with this great idea about redoing our 67 book, but except it didn't include me. But he wanted to steal all the information off my memory bank. So I made sure it wasn't all right.
That's funny. And then Gord caught wind it was 3-1, so he wanted to close it up a bit. And he came back for episode 532. It was just Mike catches up with Gord Stellick about all things Gord. I think, Gord, I loved your Harold Ballard story so much. I just wanted you back to tell me more Harold Ballard stories. And I actually made a Mike-umentary about Harold Ballard, which both of you were featured on, but there's a lot of Gord on that episode. Okay, so that's 532. We're almost done here. 532. Okay. 9:45, Damien Cox. This is in the backyard. You came back. We talked about more about Twitter. We'll get to Twitter later, but there's a lot about your Twitter persona. Why you bothered to block? Because I got a lot of notes even in the last couple of days, like about can we hear this episode even if he's blocked us? That was the and I assured them they could. Sports media in 2021, Angelo Mosca.
Oh, yeah.
And A League of Our Own, which was a new book by Damien Cox.
Another one I did without you.
And that's it. So the score, I think the finals, I mean, now you've each got one more notch in the belt, but it was, so now it's 6-3 after this episode drops. 6 appearances by Damien, 3 by Gord, and all have been thoroughly enjoyable.
And by the way, I am not staying for 2 hours and 20 minutes today.
Well, we'll see how it goes. We'll see.
Wasn't that one of those shows Damien was that much late? 2 hours and 20 minutes? Do I have that correct?
And he's got the shortest distance to travel, I think.
I had to run some errands.
I guess Gord's here, and I'm like, Damien's like down the street, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
Elephants and Stars is a listener of Toronto Mike. Hello to Elephants and Stars. He says, I want all the John Cordick stories from that second group. Okay, I think that's you guys because I tweeted about a few people coming over. It's the third best trade the Leafs ever made. I also want to know if Damien remembers me calling him when I was a kid, thanking him for his John Cordick reporting. I don't know if he's serious about that. But what can either of you share with us about John Cordick?
I think that
you're the one who did it all, so why don't you deal with it?
Isn't that question for Leo and Rod? Was he the wrong thing? So you talk about something
That's right. That was the other group. Okay.
You know, I was walking down Yonge Street, like I remember beautiful summer day. It was last year, and I'm walking with someone, and all of a sudden a car goes by, and you can see the person recognize me, and then goes, Cordick for Courtnall. And I kind of said, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And my friend could go, what'd they say? I said, oh, well, anyway, so
Follow you to the grave.
This, first of all, the tragic part about John Cordick was the life and his demise. Right. One of my favorite times, I got to do the Hockey Hall of Fame induction weekend, host that for about 15 years, all the inductees, and they were just thrilled. And, you know, there were fan forums and that.
Kevin Shea was here yesterday night.
Yeah, okay, so you'd be about, but anyway, but then you got to talk to them behind the scenes, right? That's just what I mean. Like, you got to talk, like they were there, they were invested. And one of the best talks I had was Cam Neely about being John Cordick's teammate in Portland and about staying for a week or whatever at Cordick's house in Edmonton in the summer because they both went to power skating. It was Audrey Bakewell was based in Edmonton, and Portland sent some players there, and just talking about, you know, what he dealt with growing up. So he you know, was a funny guy. He was a big part of the Montreal Canadiens winning '86. He wasn't my guy. I inherited John Brophy as my head coach. Brophy was a great guy, in over his head in many ways, coaching in the NHL, but he was my guy. So I didn't grease the skids.
Well, he was only sort of your guy.
Well, no, I was stuck with him as my guy as coach.
You didn't get to choose him.
No. So anyway, you want to get a preeminent heavyweight. He was available, and Russ Courtnall had been a healthy scratch. I forget how many games it was, so I promised Russ if he minded his P's and Q's, we try to find a positive landing spot.
So just to interrupt, it would be like akin to someone trading for Ryan Reeves today.
Ryan Reeves with way more questions. Well, actually, we didn't in fairness, questions off the ice, but you really didn't know them to the full degree back then. But yes, it would be something
like he was that. It wasn't like he was, and he had scored a few goals in Montreal. He'd been a popular player.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you didn't know about the other stuff.
No, we didn't know about the other stuff off the ice. Yeah. So thing was, I was the one who was gone next summer. When he left the Leafs, I was already gone. Like when he got, so I heard the next year, I'm trying to get it right. So Floyd Smith is GM, Doug Carpenter's the coach. So he gets sent down to Newmarket Saints. So he's got to report to the American Hockey League. So he almost gets in a fight with a teammate on the bench, and then they're taking the bus somewhere, and he applauds when he hears they say the Leafs had lost their game. That's whatever.
Well, he'd been in a fight with Alan Bester, right?
Yeah,
he'd given Alan Bester a black eye.
So all that, and then he moved on to Washington. It's funny, he actually had a good Sunday afternoon game on TV, and I was happy for him. And then he disappeared. And I remember David Poile just saying that, and then ended up in Quebec. So
my relationship with John was probably subsequent to after Gord left town, because I was still with now gone from 1 contact to 0 contacts on the beat because Gord had left. I was a beat reporter for the Toronto Star on the Leafs, and John Kordick was a very loud and very well-known player on the team, and more than willing to spill the beans on this, that, and the other. So for a young reporter, it was kind of gold, right? It would tell you what was going on. And I wouldn't say I got close to him, but I would talk to him on the phone at night. He would talk. And at the same time, all the stuff involving Gary Lehman and Ali Afridi and all the weird stuff within that that dressing room were going on. And he and Lehman did not. He hated Gary Lehman. For whatever reason. And I think he was probably a little scared of Alfie, because Alfie was a big guy if he ever lost his temper. So so I ended up talking to him a lot, and boy, he was a troubled guy, and so insecure, despite the outer bravado and the toughness and all that. Didn't like being an enforcer. Even though he put on a great show about it, I mean, none of them do, right? Well, how could anybody like that when you wanting to be? I mean, he was like a lot of these guys, right? He grew up wanting to be a hockey player. He went to power skating with Cam Neely. They were trying to make him.
He was on the All-Star team, Western League All-Star team as a defenseman.
And to me, and I have a slightly harsher view of a lot of these things than my friend Gord here, is it was a classic case of the NHL and hockey in general exploiting a person and then throwing them away once they had no more use for him. And then by then, the drug problems and the other problems had kicked in, and we know how it all ended.
Well, and so the interesting part is, and it's funny because you asked the question, Mike, and people like Damien know him better. That's what I mean. Like so I keep being associated with him, and I'll speak very positively on the personal side of him. But my guys are Borja Somming and Wendell Clark and Mark Osborne and Ken Reggett and Ali Afridi and on and on and on. All I know is when he came over via trade, okay, and Brof had wanted him, and then after about 3 weeks, Brof got pissed at him once about not being tough enough, and he went out and put a stick in Keith Acton's mouth. You remember that?
Yeah, and he got suspended.
So he got a 10. So here I am, 3. So we fly to Montreal.
Keith Acton.
I know, and we've got a hearing in front of Brian O'Neill, who's the disciplinarian. He's pre-Brian Burke, the disciplinarian. So Bob Myers is the referee. He's there. We all go on the same flight. John Kordick, Bob Myers, and me. We fly to Air Canada in the morning, go to Montreal, and you're looking at the video, and it's kind of like, it's like the perfect shot that, like, Kordick's just so mad, and he puts a stick from behind right around Keith Acton. Yeah. And it's kind of like, I'm watching my son or my client murder someone. Now I got to defend that he didn't. And I do remember Brian O'Neill going to Bob, Bob, how come you only called a minor penalty on that play? And so anyway, when I walked out and Brian O'Neill said, hey, you know what? I'm going to have to give him something, obviously. But he said, because Brian O'Neill was passionate about the Montreal Canadiens because he, was based there, and just said, this guy was a really good player. Like, it was interesting. He's kind of saying, boy, he really contributed. And so that 10-game suspension really was because Brophy was really going to be his ally. Right. Then Brof really was the worst thing for him. And then by the time the suspension was over, John Brophy was out and George Armstrong was in as the head coach.
So
and this
tragic.
By the way, this shows you how bad that assault was. Nobody got suspended in those days.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody did. So
no,
that's
I know
how bad it was.
No, I'm trying to think of a more tragic tale for a Toronto Maple Leaf than this story. Like
Brian Spencer.
It's before my time. I'm trying. Yeah,
it's not a contest, but
no, not a contest. You're right, but
it was a tragic story in a different way, and you'll remember this, although not to the same end, because I've heard of where this guy lives now, and he lives a very quiet life. Remember the whole Paul Higgins thing?
Yeah, but I thought everything became positive there. I found it sadder hearing about Greg Terry.
What is this story?
Dan Maloney.
Tell me about this story. I'm not sure I know this.
Which
Higgins
one, Paul
story.
Higgins?
Yes.
Well, he was, what year would this have been?
So he was, again, the Mike Nicholick era, because Mike had
Right.
coached the Broad Street Bullies.
But they brought him in to basically be a goon, and he wasn't qualified to play in the NHL.
He played at Henry Carr High School.
Yeah.
And then he was playing for the Kitchener Rangers. And then because Nicholick wanted toughness, he's a local kid. We called him up.
But didn't he do a couple of crazy things?
Well, yeah, he went out and he started trying to beat up Colin Campbell of all things, who played for the Red Wings. And then he fired the puck and actually Ballard.
I know somebody who's like friends with him, and he lives out in the East Coast somewhere. And it's
Ballard
all cool.
got annoyed about the whole, why do we have this guy? And we're hardly using him in that. And that was a sign of the times that was horrible. And my understanding is Paul Higgins really, really cleaned up his act. Is my understanding.
I think that's right.
So so the hockey part,
happy ending.
He probably shouldn't have been in the NHL in the first place. Got a bit, was exploited, you could say, right? And so at the end, to his credit, made a great life for himself. That's my understanding.
Yeah, I think that's
But I'm more like Greg Terry and Danny Maloney, like wonderful guys that dealt with other issues off the ice and have passed away in the last 3 or 4 years. And they were part of that core group in the 1980s.
Yeah, very interesting. And quick aside, we can get back to the hockey talk, but I just want to tell you, Gord, that I recently Zoomed with your brother Bob because he was on Toronto Legends, which is another show I produce. So how's Bob doing?
Bob's doing great. Bob's doing great, yeah.
Is Bob a legend?
But how come I wasn't
I thought
on the
you were a
Legends?
legend.
Why am I just
I don't
on this
choose
show?
the guest list. I only choose the guests.
I want to be on the Legends.
How do you get on the
listening.
Legend show?
Okay.
Can I get on there 6 times to Gord's
Would you
3?
rather be? Because I could make that happen. Except I don't choose. I should just disclose. I don't choose guests for Toronto Legends.
What about a
save my
show
best
that was
on.
something like Toronto Legends in their own mind? Something like that. I could be on that
You'll
show.
be the first guest
Yes.
here.
We could get a lot of names there.
So shout out to Bob Stellick, who will one day be on Toronto Mike. Just I have to get around to it, but glad to hear Bob's doing well.
Bob's got stories.
I'm going to make that happen. And you'd think that would be when Gord leaves Maple Leaf. What was the name? It wasn't MLSE, right? What was the name?
Well, Maple Leaf Gardens Limited,
Leaf
but it was the
Gardens Limited.
Toronto Maple Leaf Hockey Club that I was leaving. I mean, the other.
But wouldn't Bob then become like a contact for Gord for Damien at the Toronto Star? Like he needs that name in the Rolodex. Could Bob be the name?
Yeah,
when
well,
Gord...
Bob was a contact, but Bob was very professional and always.
Unlike Gord, you mean?
No, Gord was very professional, just very short tenured.
No, I was there a long time. You weren't just at the end. I was there.
Actually,
14
want to hear
years.
the first time I ever met Gord Stellick?
Yeah, let's hear it. Yeah.
So we're on a flight to
the Memorial Cup in Saskatoon.
So
1989.
that is literally, I think, my second assignment. My first one was to go to the Final Four in Seattle. I had just moved to the sports department at the Toronto Star. So we're going to the, that would have been right, because March Madness, and then this would have been in May.
Yeah,
right?
first week.
And I get on the plane.
What a memory.
And I'm like wide-eyed, like I don't know anything, right? I know zero of what's going on. And but for some, I think you might have just introduced yourself, and then we get on the plane. In those days, you just walk around, people are smoking, and I walked back and talked to Gord for a while, and he was sort of explaining to me, yeah, we're going. We kind of got, and we were talking about the draft, and we've kind of got this guy on this Swedish guy, this Sundin guy. I'm going, who's that? Like I was just, the world was so different back then.
Yeah.
And then and then we started talking about coaches, and George Armstrong, the great, the late George Armstrong, what a wonderful man, was coaching the team. And Gord turned to me and said, yeah, but he doesn't want to be the coach, but he doesn't want to tell Harold. And I said, what? This is my introduction
Wow, think
to
about that.
major professional sports.
And George is on the flight.
Yeah. Well, let me finish the story. So, and I said, pardon me? And he said, well, yeah, he doesn't want to be the coach, but he's afraid to tell the owner because he was worried about his pension and stuff, right?
Well, yeah. Just,
and just his financial security. So Gord said, well, go and ask him. So I went and I sat down beside the great George Armstrong. And he said, yeah, I don't want to be the coach.
Wild.
But I don't want to tell. And that's how I met Gord Stellick.
and all this stuff backfired on me because Harold then got more entrenched about George was going to be the guy.
Whether
and
George
don't let
wanted-
this young whippersnapper tell you otherwise. So anyway, I knew at that point I had ceased to be the fair-haired boy, which I knew was going to happen, and what have you. But yeah, so imagine that your first.
But how did Floyd weasel his way in there?
Well, he was by default because I ended up leaving that summer. And anyway, it all worked out well for George. He stayed, didn't have to coach. Floyd just happened to be the most competent guy in our very small office to be there. And then he brought Doug Carpenter in rather quickly. So that kind of salvage. But when we were going to Saskatoon, I interviewed Danny Maloney there. I interviewed Barry Melrose
the coach
and a few
that
others about trying to figure out the coaching thing.
So those who are listening to the podcast, go find the photo that accompanies this episode on TorontoMike.com, because you can see Damien Cox's shirt, which says Vanderlei Industries. Yes, I know. Yeah, or Vanderlei, right? Vanderlei Industries, and it says, of course, from Seinfeld. And then I'm looking at Gord Stellick's wallet, which is extremely George Costanzian.
Yeah.
So is that why you wore that shirt, Damien Cox?
No, we didn't. We don't speak, Gord and I, so I had no idea.
I haven't talked to Damien in a long time. And then he coveted my shirt, which
you
want
to know the last time I talked to Gord was?
Yeah, of course.
The last time, I think, is he came to play at my golf course with him and Bruce Boudreau.
And John Shannon.
And we had a great day. Haven't heard from him since.
I said
thank you.
I said
no,
thanks.
come in. Why don't you come over to the cricket club? And
I told Boudreau to say thank you.
Boudreau, I haven't heard a word from since then. Like, he's worse.
Let me ask you about John Shannon real quick. So I was putting together, I mentioned the mockumentary on Harold Ballard. Well, I did a mockumentary on the pen flip, Dave Hodges' pen flip. And I wanted to speak to John Shannon about it. I wasn't sure if he was there, or I think I found out subsequently he wasn't even like working the gamers. I don't know. He was in the West Coast or something. I don't know. But I wanted to talk to John Shannon on Toronto Mike. And he just flat out refused to talk to me about anything, let alone the pen flip.
It's the rival podcaster thing.
But it was before. I feel like it was before, because this has been going 10 years. But
he's a connected guy. I believe he's writing
so connected.
a book.
Connected, like
he's
the
better
mafia?
than So meanwhile,
stories like knowing the behind the scenes.
He's got a book coming out.
John Shannon to me would be the type of guest who would want to come on Toronto Mike and talk about things, but he simply won't. I even met him at Dave Hodges' live event. You were there. Damon was
What about
there.
Legends? Would he go on Legends?
I don't know.
What about
See, I don't
Legends
book
in
the
their
guests
own
on
mind?
Legends. I show up. I'm always excited to find out who's on. And then I show up and I'm like, oh, it's Bob Stellick or whatever. And then I record and then I release and produce.
So after we leave here and we get that phone call that they want us, that's what we're going to call the show, Legends in Their Own Mind.
That's it, yes.
What do you think?
With Humble and Fred.
Shout out to Humble and Fred.
That was a positive shout out. Sorry. That's very much a positive shout out.
Again, Gord, you can't say that.
It was a positive shout out. Fred was a former sports reporter before he was Humble and Fred Patterson.
So would you see Fred Patterson in the press box at Maple Leaf Gardens back in the day?
Yeah, mid-late 70s when I started
he was
there.
for Pete and Geets. He was a sports guy.
Well, I don't know who he was, a sports guy for. I just happened to be there. Like, I mean,
Pete and Geets.
But I mean, you went in the press box, and to Damien's point, like I'm last year high school, and there's the Toronto Star, and there's Milt Tunnell, and there's Frank Orr, and there's John Iaboni, and there's Trent Frayne, and there's Scott Young. I mean, like they're huge. There's Jim Coleman,
Jim Hunt,
and then Jim Hunt and Brad Diamond from CKAY, Bill Stevenson from CFRB.
Right.
There's no wow in the media now. You go to the press box, you go, what a sad group. I admit it, including myself, right? But back then, you walked in and you went, wow. So I just
now
remember,
I know why we don't have a show anymore.
Fred
There's
Patterson
Freddie P in his mustache.
was there for some
He got in
group.
trouble once. I guess he was covering a Grey Cup, and it was a Grey Cup. It might have been '83. I'm not sure, but it was a Grey Cup the Argos won. And he cheered, and some old timer sportscast, I don't remember who it was exactly, but somebody read him the riot act that you don't cheer in the press box.
It was a rule.
Yeah, he did it though. He was so excited to see the Argos win. He cheered.
It's probably an old guy from out west. What was that guy's name? Brian Hall in Edmonton.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! You
He
talk
didn't
about
like
the
us.
great. I know the best. When I say the best Homer show going out of Edmonton, and he would put you in place when you talked anything negative about the Oilers or the Eskimos.
But you're right about the wow factor and that. I mean, and now you see who's the latest. Terry Jones is now
right.
Been let go in Edmonton, and it's I hate to talk about these things in a way because I don't want to be. Oh, it used to be great and now it's shit. It's like more. It's just so different.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
It is just so different, and in some ways, it's fun to look back and imagine a time when these guys, these columnists for these papers, were such big stars. At the same time, these guys
and it was all
wielded
guys.
a lot of influence and could destroy careers and sometimes cross the lines in terms of their involvement George Gross at the Toronto Sun was very involved with Alan Eagleson and Hockey Canada and all that sort of stuff with the 72 series and all that. The relationships were much different than they are now. Although now a lot of the people who are quote unquote reporters are actually working for the team or working for the league. So
or like an Elliot
formally.
Friedman who works, where you used to work there at Rogers, which is the rights holder.
Doesn't he still work for Rogers?
Yeah, no, actually, last time I checked, absolutely. He's still.
The only thing about different eras, and I know Doug McLean had a line about talking to GMs, and he said they're making
a book coming out too.
But he said they're having a ton of fun, but they're making a ton of money, but it's no fun. Now I imagine it still is enjoyable, but I hope whoever's doing what we were doing 30 years ago is still having fun in some way, shape, or form. So that's the part for us. It's more of a job.
We did have fun.
Well, the environment, and part of it probably no cell phones and texting and no whatever. Right. That's the one
no
part.
Twitter?
You're no Twitter. Yeah, but you were allowed to have a lot of fun, and that's just what I remember.
When I started covering the Toronto Maple Leafs, Rob Ramage, who eventually wouldn't speak to me, and John Kordick had something to do with that. He was the highest paid Maple Leaf player. He was making $500,000 a year. They weren't rich like they are now. Now, like Austin Matthews lives in the same atmosphere as Tom Cruise. Like it's not like the days when guys used to live down the road or you'd see them I used to see Tom Fitzgerald at Mr. Sub. Now the money has separated them and the way the game's set up so much that it's not even worth comparing because it's so different.
I remember Doug Gilmour phoned in the Fan once, and actually I think it was with Simmons.
He would call in all the time.
Yeah, but just someone wondered about his health. He got hurt. Like he's Austin Matthews. Right. And we're wondering, so all of a sudden there's a call, Doug Gilmour's on the line because he's listening to the Fan.
Right.
Like I'm sure Austin Matthews doesn't listen to any station like that, or and just to give people an update, whatever. So all of a sudden, good, and you play the clip all day on the Fan, and he has talked to the populace. Use that was the vehicle to get the word out
Twitter.
That he wasn't. Yeah, that he wasn't hurt as much as people fear.
Well, a guy would get hurt, and sounds revolutionary now. He'd get hurt. You'd go in after the dressing room, after the game, to the dressing room and talk to him and say, "What happened?" He's, I did this to my leg, and like none of this incredible wall of secrecy that exists now. That everybody says this must be in place. It was never in place for decades and decades and decades.
We were giving away a pair of Leaf tickets the day of the game to the 10th caller. And Todd Gill was the 8th caller. Is
that right?
Yeah. He's driving home and hurt. Anyone could use tickets, right? So he didn't get them.
Oh, my God. Shout out to Kevin in Alberta who says he enjoyed listening to you guys on the Fan. And he even called in once, he says, and he told you, Gord, that he was going as, I hope I say the name right, Lonnie Gleiberman.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
For Halloween.
He was the owner of the Ottawa Rough Riders.
We had him in studio.
Yeah,
you asked him some real time. That's where you had more of the journalistic edge because you kind of.
Well, I am a journalist. Thank you.
I hope to become one day. But anyway, and you said to him something like, "Aren't you a little embarrassed?" Like you said that to him.
Sounds like something I would say.
I'm kind of, geez. Anyway, then I think I softened it, so he would stay in for the full hour. But yeah, Lonnie and his dad Bernie, and then of course, who was the mystery guy? Horn Chen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember now, who's got the great stories about the Gleiber guys, because it was Lonnie and his father on the team.
Bernie, yeah.
And Arash Madani worked for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think right at the tail end then with were they the Renegades when they opened them? And then,
I think so, yeah.
Sounds right. So in 2022, the press boxes, you said the wow factor is missing. There must be a few left, right? Any you can shout out, any who you would consider?
Who, newspaper people?
Yeah, anybody.
Well, no, there's great people there, but I don't think any like certainly my guy, which Justin, who's 19, was when I started working in the press box. I was 18 at Maple Leaf Gardens and went, wow, he's got no wow people. That's all I meant. Like he wouldn't consider whomever. Like it's, and again, it's just they don't have that purpose anymore. Before they were the message deliverers,
right?
So you devoured it every day. So
and they set the conversation.
Yeah.
But now I don't think the Globe and Mail has a specific hockey writer.
Yeah, I'm not, but I mean,
And
God.
who's at the Sun now?
Well, Lance Hornby, God love
Sure,
Lance.
Lance
I mean,
is there.
there's
Simmons,
Michael
Steve
Tracos, Simmons still still a columnist there. There's
Yeah.
now the Athletic is taken over the few,
Yeah,
but
and
I
the
just
Star has Bruce Arthur, Dave Feschuk, and Kevin McGran,
Rob Longley still with the Sun and covering, and
So there's-
but
but it's-
Rosie
it's-
DiMano still pops up from time to time. God love,
And
always
it's-
says hi.
And it's not a reflection of how talented or good these people are at their jobs. It's just that it's more of a reflection of the place of newspapers in the sports conversation now. That it's just different. And even now,
Fragmented.
we've seen in the last couple of years, the place of radio in the sports conversation has changed dramatically from what it was to what it is. And largely because of people like you and your podcast. Maybe that's what we should do. We'll do a podcast.
Why listen to the fan when you can get 2.5 hours of Gord and Damien?
No, there's not going to be
unedited?
2.5 hours. Aren't we almost done? You have any more stories? You don't have any more stories, do you?
I'm done. I'm going saving it for the legends.
Look,
Can we do the Legend Show together too?
I can ask Andrew Applebaum if he's interested. Andrew books
No,
those
don't.
guests. I'll
Please
say,
don't.
look, Damien and Gord would love to be on.
But he will
Toronto
look at
Legends.
you with a puzzled look and said, "But they're not legends."
See, Bob Stellick makes the cut. Gord, he's not sure about, but we'll see. I think you guys are worthy. Listen, before Damien runs home, I want to make sure. So, Damien, you were here one time, maybe your first time. You smashed your head on the ceiling, right?
Yeah. Still hurts.
I think your blood is still up there somewhere. But
Wow.
That's nice.
that's when StickerU.com stepped up and put up a check your head sticker. So there is now a check your head sticker because what happened to you, Damien. So
What
you
about
inspired
lowering
that.
the floor? Have you thought about that?
I'm going to need some more patrons for that. Patreon.com/Toronto Mike.
What are you
Help me
looking
lower
at your
lower the
messages
floor.
for? We're doing a show.
Gord, is it
here.
breaking news? Breaking
No,
news? Okay,
yeah.
he
Okay,
knows
hang on.
this is
I want to tell you about this.
No, Vito Tama canceled as our fourth for tennis day, so I got to find a fourth.
I'm
It's
not
okay.
available.
Okay.
Damien's good at tennis.
Tell a story about that.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be about Los Angeles, and it's the same story. So see how he's like, we're doing a show now.
Yeah,
and
he's
on
checking his
texting,
messages.
okay?
He's just trying. No, Vito's trying to make sure I got
used
the
to-
message.
When we did the afternoon show, it was from 12 to 4. And when I say it's from 12 to 4, it was from 12:01 to 3:59 with very few breaks in
Yeah.
between because we didn't have any commercials. So there would be updates and that'd be it. So we
Right.
talked and talked and taled. And we'd get hungry. So
Sure.
Gord would order in food. And often it was like burgers from a specific place.
Licks.
Right, Licks Burgers. You know how
they're very
messy
good.
they are, right?
Yeah,
right.
So we're doing the show, and he's literally, as I'm talking, eating a hamburger, and he's got grease coming out of his mouth. And we're trying to do this quasi-professional show. So seeing him texting and beside his gigantic wallet is bringing back all
But-
kinds of memories.
but you
how
don't-
can you put that wallet in your pocket?
I don't. What's on
It
the
is, guys,
table
everybody.
now.
It's totally like George
So-
Costanza's wallet.
So we had ones. Alan
It's like
Davis
that.
is our program director. He comes in. We got our spread there on the table, and we go, "What does Wally Lennox say about it?" Wally Lennox, and so we find out he's a really good guy.
Wally Lennox.
He's the head engineer, and we said, "Who's Wally Lennox?" We didn't know. Sorry, David. Because first of all, you're not supposed to have French fries and onion rings and cheeseburgers and Cokes for we're having a 4-hour picnic there. Because we had I was doing Leaf games at night. You're writing for the Stars. We had other stuff going. So but anyway.
Tell him about the beach parties he used to do or the pool parties.
Well, I think Mike knows that we thought of being theater of the mind, and anyway, it was a fun way to have a couple of diversionary things. So we
Right.
get regular guests on and create a different ambiance and atmosphere. It
Theater
was
of the
fun.
mind,
It was fun.
absolutely.
Be theater
Yes.
of
Okay.
the theater of the legends
So-
in their own mind.
future Toronto legends, Gord Stellick and Damien Cox. So thank you, Sticker U, for the sticker, and that's why Damien
Thank
did
you.
not hit his head today. Lasagna, okay, Palma pasta.
It's good lasagna.
It actually is good. We sound like real shills
Why do you
here.
say
but it's-
How do you
it's
say that?
pasta.
Say that for me, Damien.
Pasta.
What is
Pasta.
it? Well, I
You
say pasta.
Pasta.
How do you say it, Gord?
You say it like PAWSTA.
What's the name of this company? Palma.
Palma's Kitchen.
Okay, that-
That's what it's called. But palmapasta.com.
Thank you.
Lisa
Not
asked,
pasta.
do we get a pasta on the way out again or not?
yes, you do.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Yeah, so
that's one
so
less
that's where
meal
I'm
I
going
gotta
here.
do.
Okay, so You're going to leave here with a frozen meat lasagna from Palma Pasta. I did.
Oh, we're
clear
leaving?
it,
You're kicking us out already?
Not yet. But I want to shout out Anthony Petrucci.
Don't we at least get to stretch?
The Petrucci family owns Palma Pasta. Palma
Right.
is actually the matriarch, Palma Petrucci. And I asked him once on this program, I say pasta. Some people say pasta. Which one is it? He says either's okay, but he says he likes pasta. So
Okay.
I'm just in honor of Anthony. Who,
Palma Pasta.
Palma Pasta. So, yeah. So
And the guy from Sticker U wants it called Steaker. SteakerU.com. I talked to him. Jimmy Steaker.
Steiker.com.
That's pretty funny.
That's not
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
That's the kind
funny.
of stuff.
All right, I'm not even done yet. Beer, fresh craft beer from Great Lakes. They're a Southern Etobicoke institution, but you can get them in LCBOs across this fine province and go to greatlakesbeer.com for free delivery in the GTA. Do you guys want some fresh craft beer?
Do we have to back? I got to back my car up later.
This is like
Holy mackerel.
how I used to have to put in Toronto Star after everything I said. This guy's just a walking advertisement for.
Somebody's got to help fuel the real talk. These are the good people who've done it. Do either of you smoke weed?
I do not.
It is legal. I'll
I know that.
preface
I
it.
don't have a problem with it.
Right. Okay, Damien.
Damien can have mine.
Damien, do you smoke a little weed or no? It's okay. Just curious. You're gonna plead the fifth?
No, not really.
You don't inhale.
Okay. You might not have a use for these Canna Cabana ashtrays that you've got here in front of you here. So that if
yeah, I
maybe
don't-
maybe you got a neighbor or a
I
family
know
member.
a guy. I know a guy I can give it to.
The
I know a guy.
Cigars.
you will not right. You will not be under. They will not be undersold on cannabis or cannabis accessories. Canna Cabana, over 100 locations across this country, and they're good people too. So take home your ashtrays, courtesy of Canna Cabana. And I do want to shout out Doer Pants because they're the world's most comfortable pants and shorts. They also have great shirts. And if you go to doer.ca, DUER.ca, and use the promo code Toronto Mike, you'll save 15%. But they have a retail store in Queen Street West. So go in there too, and that promo code will work. So the promo code's Toronto Mike. The company is Doer. Oh, right. Ridley Funeral Home. We talked about them off the top, but they have sent over some measuring tape for you guys to. You never know. You got that big wallet, right, Gord? You might want to stick measuring tape in your pocket. You never know.
Look, Gord, 5
that's
inches.
right.
We can measure.
Okay.
Sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
You
Maybe
know, I'm
I
not
did
editing
smoke
that out,
weed
Damien.
before I came in here.
little. And by the way, I'll just remind people, cannabis, you don't have to smoke it. You can drink
right.
it. You can eat it. You can get some nice edibles at Canna Cabana as well. All right. So thank you to all the wonderful sponsors that have stepped up to fuel the real talk.
Thank you.
JR writes in. This is JR now. 67, the Maple Leafs, their sensational victory and the end of an empire was co-written by Damien and Gord in 2004. That was 37 years since the last Stanley Cup. It will be 56 years in 2023. Now much longer than the Rangers' famous drought. What are your thoughts other than we're all old now? Any memories of writing that book together?
Great.
Or
You know what? That is something I'm very proud of. I think Damien is as well. Damien had the idea, and Damien doesn't remember that he had the idea because Svela picked number 67, right? That he came from Florida, and only 1 year he understood 67 was important. He played decent that year for the Leafs anyway.
Right.
How
So-
does Roberts fail? What
That's
does he
what
have to do
you
with the book.
You forget about that. You called with the
67.
book idea, and you part of it was you
Nobody
said,
was thinking of 67 until Schwela
Yo,
put it on the back.
That's,
of
this
his
is
jersey.
not true.
So it was
None of
anyway.
this is true.
Damien's idea. So we started.
That part's true.
So we couldn't have divided it any better. I got to interview all the Leafs, relatives of Horton, relatives of Sawchuk. They're the only two that have passed away. We really lost some tough ones we'll talk about in the last year, man.
And you did
Well,
a
you
great
can talk
interview.
about it now if you want.
Well, he did a great interview with Jim Pappin. Who
Oh, he
recently
was-
passed, and he was so important to the book. And
Many-
can I just jump
Many
in here?
interviews with them. Just
So there was a reason. I'd never written a book. I kind of wanted to do it, but I also really looked at it and said, okay, I don't really want to go at this and make it a hard hitting look at this because there's so much affection about that team that I really felt that Gord would bring that to it, and it would be a combination of the two things. And I think that's why it turned out so well in that way, that there's some facts in there that are not flattering to the organization, what happened to the team, how Punch Imlach, yeah, he did great things, but then he did not great things, about the passing over of ownership, about a lot of stuff. But then there's tremendous stories that we were able to bring to light, like Jim Pappin, who was the leading scorer of that team, like
Larry Hillman,
and shine a spotlight on some of the guys who really hadn't been as well known for their role on that team.
Yeah, you think nowadays you know everything about Colorado, Tampa Bay, and all these past playoffs. The 67 team was not anywhere close to the 62, 63, 64 team, even though a lot of the same players were there. The prominent ones were Marcel Pronovo, Larry Hillman. Of course, the goaltending was great, but guys like Brian Conacher had a big role. Jim Pappin probably should have won the Conn Smythe. Pete Stemkowski.
Yep.
You know, on and on. And this brought them to light. And so it became a labor of love. And Bob Haggard has since passed away, but he was the trainer of that team, and he was a help. And when he called me and said, man, you got it. You got it. Like he read the book, and Susan Conacher talked about it.
That's
She was,
right.
you know, because Brian was a big help.
Johnny
But-
Bauer, really. So this is how much the book industry has changed. So back then, this was with Wiley, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And when we came out, we had a huge party. Gord found this place downtown, and
It was the Labatt's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we had Johnny Bauer was there, and a couple of other guys were there, and it was a huge do. It was one of the great parties, and signing all those books, and people still comment on that book, and I think it's one that sort of sits there because it's not going anywhere. Although I think there's even more you could do on it now.
If they win a cup, we could do the quick and dirty thing, what they call it, just that you update it, right? Just you know, because it's a great story. Like if they win a cup and it
Well, then this book is
behooves
never
people-
coming out, Gord.
Well, I don't know, but it would behooves people to look at it because I love this team getting acknowledged. That's all I'm saying. I like the real story.
Would you guys be able to name check? Sounds kind of grisly to say, but name check who's still with us from the 60s.
Well, one of the funny things is Red Kelly,
he's passed.
but we couldn't really talk to him.
No.
At that time, he was so ill, and he ended up living
Another 15 years.
Another 15 years.
Yeah. But
So who's left?
well, like I said, we only had two before in the sense of Sawchuk and Tim Horton.
Right.
You know, just recently we've lost Larry Hillman. We've lost Eddie Shack. We've lost George Armstrong. Jim Pappin just recently. Armstrong was great. Like he was phenomenal.
wonderful.
I mean, we still have the big M and Dave Keon and Pulford Stemkowski. Larry
Brian Conacher.
Brian Connor's still doing great. Larry Jeffrey just passed away, but he had a very small role. But he was on
The
crutches.
other goalies too. They played 5 goalies, which made it for a great chapter. Bruce Gamble was gone sometime. Mike Smith,
Al Smith and
Al
Gary Smith. And Gary Smith.
and Gary Smith. That's right. And are they? I don't know. I lose track now. But we're down to about 10 or a dozen.
Marcel Pronovo passed away. You know, at that point, I love getting firsthand stories, and then once Terry Sawchuk's son, it was great to long chat with him.
So really not with you two because you got many decades ahead of you, but I'm always keen to talk to certain people to capture the stories, like in this long form, just capture it the idea is that this recording will outlive the guest by hopefully centuries. Like capture these stories while we can, and it's just great to hear that you're able to get all that while they were still able to share. Because at some point they're going to be gone. It's sort of like talking to veterans of world wars, and it's like get them while you can, because we don't live forever, guys.
And at that time, I mean, when I started covering the Leafs, it had been 22 years since they'd won the Cup. Not very long. And then when we wrote that book, it had been 30, what did he say? 37 years, 30.
It came out in 2004, so 37, yes.
37 years, and now we're at 50, whatever.
Yeah.
And it just kind of continues, because that story doesn't change. All that changes is the distance between.
Right.
And by the way, they've never been in a Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
Never, not in my life.
Not
in my life.
Not a Stanley Cup. Have not been in a Stanley Cup
Right.
final.
In my entire life, we've
Since
never been in a
67.
Stanley Cup
You
final.
think this team's going to get to a Stanley Cup final?
I picked them this year, but they had to beat Tampa. I think.
How'd that turn out?
Well, if they beat Tampa, maybe they would have. So
Maybe.
I'm still going to be bullish for another. As long as Austin Matthews is here, I will be bullish on this team's chances.
If I may, though, it's been 18 years since this team won a playoff round. 18 years.
Right.
We got out of the first round in 2004, which was before that lockout there. And that's so, I mean.
That's a long time.
And that's a round, right? Like, I remember, we kind of, not laugh, but you talked about the 92, 93 teams, and we'd win a round, And I was a teenager. We'd end up on Yonge Street celebrating the round. And like, it was kind of like, hey, we won a round.
Yep.
And I was saying, like, we're doing this for a round. Like, I feel like in Edmonton, they wouldn't be like in Edmonton. It's like, no, like you got to.
Oh, I don't know. They were pretty happy to win a round this year.
Now they are. Now they are. I guess when you're the city of champions, they had a good run. But I'm thinking like, we haven't been able to do that since 2004. So anyway, there's a long way to go before this team. And I'm wondering, like, just your thoughts quick, and then we'll get back to the nostalgia. But Matt Murray, is he our guy? Like, it looks like we're going with Murray and Samsonov here. Is this the tandem that gets you your cup?
I think if I were to take a guess, I think Ilya Samsonov will be the number one goalie by March.
So they will look at I think they believe they can maybe get someone at the trade deadline as well, March, like things go well. Something went south with Jack Campbell. That's not a good split. He should still be the guy. So
hang on.
Isn't he just too expensive?
No.
Let me ask you this, Mr. General Manager,
Yeah.
Mr. Youngest General Manager, Mr. Legend, Toronto Legend.
Right.
Would you have given Jack Campbell 5 years?
Okay. So
you don't have an answer for this?
I'll say.
You want to take a timeout?
I'll say 5 times 5. Yeah, why not? Because look, so Murray's got 2 years at 4.7. Matt Murray, they're paying 4.7. Ottawa's picking up the rest. So after 2 years, I think you're assuming he plays well. So then he'll want 6.25 again.
So with Jack Campbell.
So I mean, you're saying like, oh, Matt Murray's going to fail after 2 years.
This is actually like the radio show used to be. It used to get quite heated.
Yeah.
So with Jack Campbell, where did the Leafs stand in league save percentage last year?
He played in an all-star game.
Where did they stand?
He played well in the playoffs.
22nd.
I don't care.
22nd. Well, he didn't win a playoff series. So I'm not saying Jack Campbell's a bad guy. He seems to be a real nice guy, although I have no idea. I'm not saying he's a bad goalie. I'm saying he's a bad bet for 5 years at 5. And these guys that they've got are no worse bet than he is.
You know, who knows what he would have taken term-wise to stay in Toronto. Okay.
You wanted 5 years.
But I understand. But first of all, I agree.
When you're hurt all the time, you want term.
The term is a killer. But after going through the Peter Mrazek experience last year, I think people have the heebie-jeebies about Matt Murray. And Samsonov, I know, sounds sexy, but if you watch a lot of Washington games, he was getting pulled all the time. So hopefully he can get it together because he's a former first-round pick. So
what was Jack Campbell's status as an NHL goalie when he came to Toronto?
He was the number one goaltender with the Toronto Maple Leafs last year. The guy was the backup.
No, I said what was his status when he came to Toronto in the trade? He was a backup and not even an established backup. But
from the word go, played well with the Maple Leafs, surprisingly so.
He had moments, but the point is, I think you have to hope, if you're a good organization, I think we'd all agree now, the Leafs are a good organization.
Yeah.
You have to hope that you can get players from other teams and they'll play better for you. And that's what they have to hope. I just don't see these guys are any worse of a bet than he is.
Well, if it was, of course, Camper wanted too much money. But I'm okay. But get the guy that gives me the wow factor, not the guy who's been hurt. Not Matt Murray, who's been hurt more. Give me the Matt Murray of 3 years ago.
Not. Then who?
Vasilevsky. That's the kind of callers we used to have.
How about Shesterkin?
Those are the callers we used to have. No, hey, Georgiev was the one. I thought Georgiev, again, Joe Sakic, pulls that trade, gets him, 3 years to 3.4.
We'll see.
His
numbers were not very good last year.
Damien, you got to do the eyeball test. You can't be at PEI at your vacation homes and playing golf all the time and whatever. You got to be like El Gordo, watching it intently.
It's funny. John wrote in. I got a lot of notes like this, but John wrote in and asked if you guys were going to do a lunch bag letdown. So who can tell me the lunch bag letdown origin story?
Damien never realizes things he invented because he doesn't remember.
I tried
stuff.
to get a
so
run
he
away
came
from them.
He came up with that idea of lunch bag letdown
in the basement of our house.
When we were getting the idea, because we started at noon and we thought, okay, at 12:30, let's kind of do a fun segment. And then just before we went on air, Ian Radar Cunningham, who was our op, did a sounder for it that was about the most discounted sounder that was going to be changed imminently and lasted the entire time, because it added to the corniness of it. And so it was just threw something out, your kind of gripe of the day, and then the callers called in, and best 4 out of 7 won it. And if we were tied 3-3, the caller came on the line, so that was kind of cool.
And then we'd both get really sucky and come up with ones that we knew would be easy winners.
Oh, yeah.
We'd do it.
And we kept a monthly tally, then we start off fresh.
Because we would never tell each other what it was.
No.
And then the other guy sometimes would have the one that you would want. But the funny thing is, I remember at that meeting, it was literally in the basement of my home in Ancaster.
Yeah.
And you'll find this interesting, Mike, because our concept really was at that point we wanted the show to sound like what it would sound like if guys were sitting in the basement talking sports. That was literally what
You
we
wanted it
about.
to sound like a podcast before podcasts
Correct.
existed.
We were ahead of our time.
Well, and I always get
We're like Elon Musk.
Well, Tim McAuliffe is just such a great guy, and he just said, for him, Tim and Sid was what he viewed Gord Damien. I took that as a real compliment because Tim's a solid guy, and he just said, and so if Tim said that's a real compliment to Damien and myself.
Well, they went
and
a lot
appreciate
longer
that.
than we did.
Well, because you quit after 14 months with the Toronto Star guy.
I was at the Jays game Friday night, and Sid was throwing out the first pitch. Yeah, and then I met. Well, Mike Epple's a big fan of the program, so hello to Mike Epple. But the whole breakfast
Mike.
television crew was.
Give me some business tips, Mike.
Remember, he used to come on and do the business, and then we'd sort of make fun of him, make him
well,
laugh.
he's listening now, so we don't want to say anything. to
Apple
Mike.
was solid. No.
I mean, he'd come on. We would just start yakking at him. He just wanted to deliver the news.
Yeah, no, because normally if the normal co-hosts were there, he just got to deliver. Right, that's right. And
it's like when Barb would come on with the traffic, and then we'd start yakking at her, and she just wanted to deliver the news. Be a professional.
Okay, so speaking of Barb, there's a note from AG who says, during the OJ trial, when Barb DiGiulio was on, I used to like the Greta Van Susteren fashion updates.
Gord was in love with Greta Van Susteren.
Well,
that is the truth. He thought she was spectacular. And he would spend hours watching her.
Well, the trial, let's face it, we all learned about court TV with that, and her and Roger Cossack were the CNN individuals that came on. So
this.
I started, my fascination with Greta really got legs, so I played it up more. I played it up more on air, like as
You
if I
leaned
went
in.
to,
You
as if
leaned
I had
in.
a Greta Van Susteren poster at home and things like that. So Barb, who is very witty, very talented. So yeah, so then it became about Greta updates because we were doing all sports, but we were doing all relevant, right? Whatever was relevant going on then. Again, social media is not happening then. That's what we would try to incorporate.
Yeah.
Yes,
We'd get a little off topic from
Shout
A
out
little.
to FOTM Barb DiGiulio, absolutely. And Hadley Obadiah.
Hadley Abodiak.
Okay.
Her dad is public relations director. He's the reason I got in the first place.
So this is a short but sweet note. Just said hi Gord with an exclamation mark. So if you want,
Yeah,
to address
and Hadley helped us with pictures for the 67.
I'm here too.
Had
Hi, Haley.
Don't worry, you're coming up next, Damien. I got no
she
fee.
brought pictures for the
it won't be as
67
nice,
book,
I can guarantee you.
and all the best to the Abodiaks. Yes.
So this is the home of real talk,
Mine's gonna
and,
be,
and
hey,
I like
hi,
you.
Damien. Are you still alive?
I like you both very much. I mean, come on, 6th time I've invited Damien over to my home. I gotta like a guy to do that.
7?
And-
Isn't this 7?
No, this is 6. This is 6, and because I can't count the reporters. That was different. You weren't here. I did host the reporters reunion, if you will, from the Paradise, which was amazing. But okay, so
Hang on a second. Who was on this show? The reporters reunion.
Oh, you weren't there. Who was it? You weren't there? Was it you? No. The reporters: Dave Hodge,
Yeah.
Bruce Arthur,
Yeah, except he wasn't an original.
Michael Farber,
Original.
Steve Simmons. Oh,
No,
So-
you screwed it up. That
okay, I
wasn't
have
the
fucked it up. Now again, I don't edit this, so I will be exposed here.
Brunt was one of the originals because you have
So
to go-
okay, so you're right. I fucked this up. Okay, so you were not invited to be a part of this. Help me out here because I'm drowning here.
I'm listening.
I know.
Why wasn't I invited? That's what I want to know.
So you and Brunt were.
It was me and Brunt because we were with
so
John
Arthur
Wells.
took over for Brunt, and who took your?
No, I think Arthur took over for me.
Okay, then who took over for you? Was it? Was that Simmons?
I think Farber might have taken over for Brunt.
Is that
Brunt
because
left.
you were with Rogers? Like, help me out here. Was it that you were the enemy because you
Yeah.
signed with Rogers?
Yes.
You couldn't be on the TSN show.
Yes.
Okay, so it's funny that in this moment I could picture you there, but of course you were not invited. So this
That was
is
nice
just
of you.
I'm embarrassed.
So
by
the
this.
whole thing was a big phony baloney thing.
I had Ken Robinson, who's a very funny stand-up comic. You might know Kenny Robinson.
Funnier than Gord.
Way funnier than Gord. And I opened the episode by congratulating his mom on turning 100 because on Facebook, Kenny Robinson was talking about my mom just turned 100, and I thought that was Kenny Robinson, the stand-up, and it turned out it was a different Kenny Robinson, and that Kenny's mom had passed away a few years ago. So that literally, like, so this is not nearly, like, I don't feel nearly as embarrassed by this as I did when I congratulated Kenny on the 100th birthday of his dead mother. So I'm still kind of living that one down. Okay, so where am I going here? This is the post for you, Damien, but as I read it, it's actually for Gord as well. But Craig M, but it's about you, and then we're going to talk about this. Craig M writes in, ask Gordo. You know you like a guy when you give him the name Gordo.
How is this about me?
It's going to be. Stand by. Ask Gordo if he blocks people on Twitter like Mr. Cox does. Please. LOL. Can Damien be cured of this need to block people who disagree with him? We need to just talk about it briefly. We won't dwell on it. So maybe we'll do 60 quick minutes here. Damien.
Let me ask you. I'm going to pose Damien. First of all, anyone that works with you right now would laugh and go, El Gordo doesn't know how to block anybody. Okay, that's the first thing they would say.
You haven't figured it out yet.
But I do wonder about blocking. Does that not then motivate the person to come back at you with another? And that's what I hate about Twitter, the gutlessness that you can hide behind it, have burner accounts, and then just keep coming back at you even more so that they poke the bear. So I'm curious.
Let's talk about it.
First of all, I have never, ever, ever blocked someone for disagreeing with me.
Right.
That's the number one thing. I have never blocked someone.
So let me ask you this, because I've had to do some blocking recently myself. So if somebody came at you and said, Damien Cox, you stupid mother effer, how could you think this? You might block them, but you're not blocking them because they disagree with you. You're blocking them because they're calling you a stupid mother.
And I have no interest in them following my Twitter account. Now, in more recent years, if I see something that's just whatever, I take your word and actually get great pleasure out of just muting people. Right. The people who are out there who are blocked know they're blocked. The people who are out there muted, they still think their shit's getting
through. They're screaming into the abyss.
Exactly. So I take good pleasure in that. But I have never and will never block anyone for just disagreeing with me. But let's face it, I mean, particularly these days, can we not just disagree in a respectful, reasonably polite way? You know, as opposed to the way Gord and I used to disagree on the air.
Well, so I was on.
It really is like the old Saturday Night Live with Jane Curtin and Jane, you stupid slut. Remember that stuff? Yeah. Like, can we not just say here and instead of attacking my ideas, you tell me what you think, and that'll be fine. But people want to do it the other way, and they think they're all big men and they're big tough guys. And blah, blah, blah.
So social media as well. So I'm on a show on the Fan Say just even a week ago. And the host just said about Mitch Marner and all the abuse he takes. I go, whoa. Mitch Marner is a first-team All-Star 2 years in a row, okay? Right. He took abuse on social media. If you want, like, the Leaf team deserves to take abuse for how they, not abuse, to criticize and own up about Columbus and Montreal, not Tampa Bay, but that. And all of a sudden, and even Kyle said, I'm tired of the crap, Mitch. It's because that vehicle's out there. What are you reading it for? Like, the real knowledgeable hockey fans understand this guy is a treasure and he's a first-team All-Star. But so the abuse, so anyway, that's why you go down that abyss.
So you don't read Twitter?
I read Twitter. I don't devour. I don't live by it. Like it's the person, the gutless person, not putting their name or phone number or contact info to a phone message or a mail or a letter in the quote olden days. So just anyway.
No, and you're right. Sometimes I will hear about like, oh, the abuse, and then you're like, oh, like who are you following on Twitter? Because in my when I follow people on Twitter, I respect their opinions, etc. Not just because, again, like Damien, I don't block somebody because they disagree with me. I block them because they're somehow threatening me or whatever. But I will like wonder what abuse. Like, who are you following? Like, why are you listening to these anonymous accounts that are here to cause chaos?
One of my favorite things to do is every once in a while I'll get an email from somebody or somehow they'll say, you blocked me a few years ago and I was wondering if you could unblock me. And I'd say, sure.
I think I've done that on the show with you.
Absolutely. Can you tell me what you said? Oh, I don't really remember. Or I said, I feel certain that you could find it. Just tell me what you said. And and then you don't hear anything anymore because they know.
But I have for people, actually, Damien, in the past, there's been people who've like, can you ask Damien to unblock me? And I'll go search their handle and your handle on Twitter and I can see what caused and sometimes it'll be like a tweet that has like 6 different handles on it, and one of them's being an asshole and deserves to be blocked, but you'll block all 6, like a mass.
And that's just a lack of understanding of the technology.
So 5 people are now, why was I blocked? Because I was mentioned, like I've been blocked by people, and it's like because I was caught up in some kind of broad spray like that. So sometimes you will block somebody because they're part of a tweet where someone else is deserving of the block.
Well, those people I feel bad about, but not that bad. Because my Twitter account is not that interesting.
So the back also in the 90s.
Yeah.
So we're working together, the Fan, and all of a sudden, and Brunt's the same way. Everyone we become mercenaries. So Damien, what was the show was called? So John Wells had a show on Sunday mornings. TSN had another show Saturday mornings, and before Rogers bought the Fan in 2002, everyone and Scott Morrison would be on it, and I forget who hosted Saturday. Anyway, it was called so. But the point is, I would keep answering. Listen to my voicemail. Did Corey Russell call me that I'm going to be a guest on the John Wells show on Sundays?
Well, the John Wells show was
sport anyway, but it paid $200. And then Canada AM, are they going to call me? Monday morning sports panel pays $125.
Yeah.
Monday night on TVO with Steve Bacon pays so all of a sudden, all of us and
we'll
all
go
these
on
multiple vehicles, and just all of a sudden
or
some
you
extra,
go on an in between periods with Gord and Joe, and you'd get. Do you remember what you guys used to
a
do?
gift certificate from Gatsby's.
Yeah.
And then
we
had a Game Boy once.
Now nobody pays you to do anything.
I remember once.
You are leaving with lasagna and beer. Just
Feel
I got a pair of cowboy boots once in Dallas for doing an in-between.
I got it. So when Felix Potvin got called up, Grant Fuhr hadn't got traded yet. So Felix is called up from St. John's, and he's there, and he's hurt a bit. And so I wanted to be my intermission guest. He's got to go get treatment. And I show him, we're giving out the Nintendo Game Boys, right? It looks really cool. And all of a sudden, first period comes, and no Felix. Then I hear the guy limping. He's running to do
because he wants the Game Boy.
He's running to do that.
All right. Well,
so yeah.
Shout out to Steve Bacon, who listens to every episode and is listening.
He owes me $100.
He lived just down the street from me growing up.
Or was it more than 100?
I don't know, but what he owes you. But was it more than 100? So
and
Steve,
brother,
you owe money to.
His brother was the punter at Mount Allison.
Okay.
Yeah.
Poor Mike's getting overwhelmed. There's a lot to handle when you got.
I like it.
Our daughter was Steve. Honest to God, Steve Pagan's babysitter. Jesse babysat for Steve Pagan, and he had a great backyard get together when Ken Daniels was in town a few years ago at the Pagans. So yes.
Invite me to the next one.
Well,
Daniels
Steve,
is a great effort. Yeah, he will come on.
Maybe put him on the
Legends.
Legends.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Gare Joyce.
Yes.
He says, Damien Cox was on the Bobcat show that put me on the blacklist. Do you know what Gare's... So Gare was blacklisted from Primetime Sports with Bob McCowan. And he says it was because of something he said. And he says, you were there. Do you have any memory of the... I guess it would be the last appearance of Gare Joyce.
I don't even know who Gare Joyce is. No, I don't remember.
I know that's a lie.
Gord's memory for these things is much better than mine, and no, I don't remember.
Well, I don't know if Gord was there, but Gord.
But it would all be Bob related. I don't think I mean, Bob got funny things, whatever. I remember. I think
it was probably something that Gare wrote in the Globe and Mail that came across that Bob didn't like.
But did you ever blacklist someone from there? Like, there's certain guests you say you don't like because they're not good guests, right? You're looking at it, but
there are guests that were conspicuously absent always from the Primetime Sports of Bob McCowan,
like
even though Jerry Howarth.
Oh yeah.
So Jerry, I mean, come on! I don't have to be a rocket surgeon to figure out something's going on, because even in the farewell,
there was something between Bob and Jerry.
Yeah, because Jerry's farewell tour. When he was on everything. He was on this show.
No, but when Jerry did the interview when Cito termed some of the media racist.
Oh, that's right.
And Bob was one of them.
You really don't need me here. He's got all the information.
So that's where it goes back to.
Okay, here's another one. Mike Wilner. I never heard Mike Wilner on Primetime Sports when Bob McCowan was there.
Yeah, same thing.
So the same instant.
Speaking to the mic, Mike. Nobody. You should always remember that. And Gord and I used to joke about it. Nobody can get more childish than Gord and I. But same thing. Bob had a whatever for
so mine's the opposite though, Mike, in that because I care. I did the Big Show for 11 years,
right?
So about 10.9 years without Damien, right? So it became more that I'm on from 1 to 4 because at least I got the noon hour off. So 1 to 4 because I was on my own, and quite often a story would break. and I could have a lead for a guest, and we had to give it to primetime. That was more my thing. Like the bigger guests would go to primetime, you know, when, hey, understood, whatever, not sour grapes. So more, I certainly wasn't blacklisting anybody on the big show. They were more than welcome to come.
No, but I think Wellner was I don't know. I think he was. I don't know. Blacklisting is too strong a term.
Okay, well, that's Gare's term, not mine, of course. Gare Joyce calls it the blacklist.
But
there was definitely
at some
a list.
point Dave Schultz got on there.
Yes.
And I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of obvious ones, but there seems to be a list, and you were persona non gratis on the
there were
Primetime Sports.
but only Bob had the list, and it wasn't a physical list. It was just a list.
Bob, like his buddy Shannon, won't do this show. So shout out to Bob McCowan, who's not an FOTM. But you two are. Okay, here's Gare has a bit more here. He says, next time, he wrote this, ask Damien about the round table where he introduced himself as, I'm Damien Cox.
I don't remember that.
Gare Joyce
it's possible.
I'm Damien Cox.
It's possible. But
we're working
it concerns me that you two find that you're giggling.
I just mean talk
you
radio.
You find the word cock? Does that make you giggle? What about poop?
No. I had the one. You know, Scott Metcalf's the most professional guy going.
Yeah.
Right. So one time he handled the news thing, and I'm having my Licksburger lunch like we did early on. So I during the commercial break, I just have to belch a couple of times. Well, it turns out the mic on button was stuck. I didn't know that. So Scott Metcalf's just listening to, you know, like an ad for Ferryman Funeral Homes, right? Ferryman,
WKRP.
Ferryman. And all of a sudden you hear and of course he quickly cuts the tape so I get to hear it after. So I just mean live radio. There's lots of things, and sometimes you'd say a phrase and right away you accidentally misstepped. I did it lots.
Damien Cox. Okay. Johnny D. Gord, do you have a favorite Newmarket Saints memory or story that you could share with us?
Remember
for Johnny D.
Remember Frank Anzalone?
Well, no, I was gone. Frank got hired after me. So Paul Gardner was, off the top, not a favorite. What I love is those guys. I can remember being at the Christmas party. And a Newmarket Saints Christmas party, and then the Toronto Maple Leafs had one of these, like Molson was our main sponsor. So just one of these fun parties, not the actual skating party. And I said to Gunnar Garrett, our trainer, I said, how come this party's so much like more fun? He goes, well, nobody's making that much, and everyone's together. They travel by bus. They make the same money. And I just remember just so many great guys. And, Wes Jarvis, Paul Gardner was the coach, Alan Heppel, Timmy Armstrong, Timmy Bernhardt, on and on and on. So those are my memories. It wasn't the big star and glitch, just the reality, the bus trips, and that weren't fun back then. But now you look back a lot more fondly.
Newmarket Saints. Now, John, this is a tweet. Shame on Canadian broadcasting. Our national women's team is playing for a CONCACAF championship and for a berth in the Paris Olympics, and not a single network could bother to carry it. What an embarrassment. Do either of you have any insight into rights holders when it comes to our soccer teams? Like, I did see that the men's team, during their trying to qualify, I was watching them on Sportsnet, I believe it was, but one of the main sports networks. Do you know why they couldn't air this on TSN or Sportsnet?
Is that a question for another show?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's generic
generic
Canadian broadcasting. If you had any insight, if you don't,
I'd like to know too. Not meaning to be glib and smug that way, but just
like there usually are reasons. It's not like everybody's looking at it and saying
no one will watch.
It has to do with numbers. It has to do with how much money is being demanded sometimes by people for broadcasting their games. It has to do with all kinds of stuff, of which I have no idea.
Well, look at the joy of the men's soccer team, and all of a sudden, what's happened the last couple of months. Wow, it's great going to the Olympics, and now all of a sudden, Soccer Canada and whatever. And I think part of their thing is they want to bring the women up financially as well. I believe is one of the asks that they are having. So
interesting times there. I just hope they figure it out before the World Cup. JR says, I recently read Pal Hal by Dick Beddoes. A lot of great stories about Harold Ballard. I know Gord has many as well. I was surprised that Dick passed away at Gord's ripe age of 65. Are you 65, Gord?
Yeah.
That's not how old he was.
Well, this is according to JR, and you can correct. But the last sentence,
thank JR.
I visualized him as a much older gentleman. Maybe it was the fedora.
Right.
What are your thoughts, Gord?
I'll investigate.
I'll
this.
Google. Yeah, I was
So-
gonna say I'll do it too.
So the older look was in vogue for a lot of media types back then.
He was 64 or 65
So-
when he died.
So it's funny.
Really?
Yeah.
We're talking to Wayne Gretzky when Jim Matheson went at Leon Draisaitl about being pissy, right?
Right? Yes.
And then so we happened to be talking to Wayne Gretzky on our show after that, and he was just talking about how well he knew the media in his day. Like he'd go for lunch with Jim Matheson and Terry Jones and Frank Orr and people like that. And then I just said, is there any media member ever get on you or get to you? Now he answered diplomatically, no. Then he said, but Dick Beddoes never seemed to be satisfied with Wayne Gretzky. So you threw a little bit of that out about Dick Beddoes, who was quite a character.
When Mike Bossy died recently, I went back and I was looking at some old interviews, and the one was Dick Beddoes, maybe George Gross interviewing him or one of those guys. And Beddoes was kind of relentless, but also not very good at it, like kind of just railing about it. But I mean, there was another guy when you mentioned all those guys before. He would have been. What was that show they did?
Overtime.
No. There was that Sunday morning.
Yeah, so
it was like a round table thing on TV.
I was on it once too.
Anyways, so he
CHCH did the Don Cherry Grapeline, and they did Beddoes show, whatever it's called.
But I mean, really, like Beddoes, in my mind, was not up there with the likes of Milt Donnell and those guys because he was a showman.
He was the star of the show. That's what's
Yeah.
different now. James Duthie won't be the star of the show. You know what I mean? James Duthie will make everyone.
It was about Dick Beddoes, and he was full of shit.
Well, but he had an audience.
Garrett
'cause there's
Joyce has some good Dick Beddoes stories, by the way.
So the Sports Connection was his.
That's what it
show
was.
Okay,
on,
Sports
CFRB.
It was on TV or
CFRB. Is that the one?
Well, no, it was on TV.
I drove to Hamilton once and was on that show, and part of it was he just
How old
go.
are you?
Well, no, because I was general manager then, and then he
Was still on?
Yeah, and then he would hit you stuff from left field. Like he talked about a particular player and goes, and so, but that's a sad story. I go, I don't even know what he's talking about. It's one of the players on the team. Then, kind of threw a zinger. I go, I don't know what his situation is.
So Dick was a Etobicoke guy.
He curled in the Briar. He was an alderman.
I think he's in the Etobicoke Sports Hall of Fame. That's
he's an
that's
alderman for Ward 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He won the seat in 1969.
That's my goal. Yours is to be on Toronto Legends. I got to figure out a way to get into the Etobicoke Sports Hall of Fame. Bob Weeks is in.
You got
I
to
know.
talk to Buffery.
Yeah, he's in. And
Beezer's in
He's
there.
in. So
Claude-
there you go. How does that work?
Claude Lemieux's in. Claude Lemieux only lived
Claude Lemieux?
He lived in Etobicoke for 2 years.
He was a member at Islington.
I'm
Golf
going to
Club.
get into the Etobicoke Sports Hall of Fame before Damien.
They do. By the way, they do a great job. At the old mill. I like the pride they have in at sustaining that Etobicoke Sports Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Old Mill just qualifies because it's just on the side of the Humber River. If you're on the other side, you're out of Etobicoke, so that just makes it in. Okay, Jamal Alam says, did they think Eric Smith and George Stroumboulopoulos would end up being as successful as they are, especially Eric Smith's longevity covering the Raptors? What say you about the longevity and success of
Did you
Eric
think
Smith
they were
and
gonna
Strombo? I guess the question is, you caught them when they were young up and comers on.
He can speak to Strombo better than I can. I would say Eric Smith. You never know what somebody can do until they get the opportunity. Right. And did I sit there and see Eric when he was doing whatever he was doing and think, boy,
Produced the big show at the start.
Yeah. Did I think he was going to be? Like it wasn't the same as when we saw our buddy Schulman and said, oh, boy, this guy's going to be. Eric wasn't like that. And then he got a chance.
Right.
And since then, I think the level of professionalism and that he brings to the broadcast, he's a really good reporter, a broadcaster. So you never know until somebody gets the chance.
Yeah.
Strombo was a different kind.
Yeah, and Eric Smith played slow pitch with us a little bit. Your co-ed slow pitch. We had a bunch of this. So we, carried on that way. So first, you look at the show. First morning show that didn't last long. Mike Inglis is the play-by-play voice in Miami. Joe Bowen, the legendary voice. Stephanie Smythe running CP24.
Married to the aforementioned Paul Cook.
Ken Daniels, play-by-play for the Red Wings. Dan Schulman, superstar.
Right.
Greg Sansoni, big guy at Rogers now. Todd Macklin, one of his right-hand men, going on. Mitch Kersner was a big guy at TSN. They were the original producers,
Right.
and on in that direction. So I love Brian Spear, Elliot Friedman. Elliot interned when we filled in on the morning show. That he remembers that as his first interning gig. Brian Spear was a producer. Now he produces Hockey Night in Canada. And Eric, he found a niche in basketball, and he was able to cultivate that niche and grab that opportunity. And I feel bad nowadays there aren't those same opportunities like to that degree. Here I'm talking, the first 10 years, and let's throw Barb DiGiulio in and all these other people in, like just Stephen Brunt, on and on and on, Derringer, you name it, that have just were able to cultivate that for something bigger, which doesn't exist anymore to the same degree.
How's Derringer doing these days?
Hey, what about Dunleavy?
Yeah,
play-by-play,
Buffalo.
Buffalo. Yeah,
And a lot of these guys you're mentioning are FOTMs.
Jim Lang was a producer who's now on air up north.
The region.
Yeah, love it.
and what did Strombo do?
Oh, so Strombo, he was an op.
Sometimes
a
I-
board
Okay,
op.
here's
have
how I
to
remember.
just-
So
yeah,
remember,
what we're
the
talking about.
program director was Bob Makowitz Sr.
Yeah.
And Strombo was very close, still is, with Bob Macko Jr. Right.
Yeah.
And Jeff Merrick. This is like
Yeah.
a trifecta
And what
or
was-
whatever. And they had an overnight show called The Game. So they had like an overnight show that they could kind of
Once a week.
Bottom line is, you try to get that today.
Oh,
Like-
no, totally.
Oh, yeah.
No, but there's two parts to Strombo. One
Okay.
is, you understand, and they would be around all week getting ready for their Friday show. So it was a
Right.
wonderful
and
opportunity.
maybe Jim Richards had a role in this too.
Well,
maybe,
but they
or-
cultivated it. But Strombo, outside of that, was the board op with a larger-than-life personality. So whenever he came
Was
to
it
be
Storm and Norman?
Well, no, but whatever. Whenever he came in and saw you, he'd walk up, give you that kind of handshake.
Right.
And everyone liked him, the accounting people. Like, you don't get to see that anymore. Like, Strombo had this infectious personality, got the chance with those guys on the
Charisma.
Friday night show. Absolutely charisma. And so then went on, and, we didn't hear much about him. And he, of course, went on and did different things. And
Well, he went to CFNY because, he went to Myers, Stu Myers. So because
Yeah.
he's been over here to tell this whole story, but I guess he wanted to try. We're going to 102.1, so we left 590 for 102.1.
And good for him. I mean, like I said, great, just a great guy. Went on and got on air more frequently.
Did
and
the
and
CBC
succeeded.
talk show?
Yeah.
and then
Now he's working for Apple.
But those are
I
the
didn't know that.
fun kind of people we had around there.
Yeah.
Like there's still, but I mean that's kind of neat. Like
Even
all
Elliot
that.
Friedman, I think, was like a young guy in the
Yeah, we
so
said
like-
he entered. The first
Right.
time he entered was when we filled in the morning, and then he was around and just a valuable guy. And
Actually, it's interesting when you look back, the guys who kind of found their niche and their way in through basketball. Eric Smith, Elliot Friedman was
Sure.
about, Dan Schulman.
Yeah.
And they all kind of went the basketball way, and that gave them an avenue to do more with broadcasting, and they went for
if
there.
you asked Dan Schulman and Elliot Friedman early in the Fan, if you could pick your dream thing, what would you want to do? To me, they'd both say NBA,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And here's Elliot, a kingpin in the NHL, and Dan, of course, does basketball, but a kingpin in baseball.
Interesting. He had a part two, Jamal. Jamal says, did you envision the Raptors becoming as big as they are today?
I didn't know. I mean, when back in when we were sort of in 92, 93, and people forget what it was like back then. The Blue Jays, not the Leafs, were the biggest team in town. They were were
Right.
filling Skydome for WWF wrestling, and the Leafs were starting to get it going after Harold passed, but they were not the same strength.
Right.
And then all of a sudden came the Raptors. So did you envision? Well, we didn't think anybody could be as big as the Blue Jays. The Leafs, of course, had been around for so long. The Argos were still pretty big back then because
Yeah.
Candy
Well,
and
Rocket
Gretzky
Ishmael was
and
91.
all that
Right.
sort of stuff.
Right.
So did we think they were going to be that big? I mean, they were kind of, and the NBA wasn't that big back then either. So I would say, I mean, I didn't, but some did. Some did. I remember Dave Perkins saying, the Leafs, as Perky would, the Leafs will be fourth in the city and blah, 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 blah. But I didn't. Did you?
Well, and first of all, I would disagree about the Leafs were right up there with the Jays. They just were. Okay, they just were. But it was great for our station because we launched in 92. And back then, yeah, the Jays were strong then, but the Leafs got that run in 93. So
Right.
all of a sudden
and then
you had
won the
great
first
run.
10 games in 94.
Yeah.
right?
So anyway, but you're right. So the Raptors are kind of this anomaly, but we're going to get an NBA team. We're going to, and we did have expansion, ups and downs. But boy, the NBA just after that, and Raptors are part of it. Whatever reasons, what a monster it's become.
And the Raptors, I mean, they almost went out of business. It was not a good
Well, this case, so you guys are here being reunited, but last week I reunited. Sing
Peaches
it.
and Herb.
Sing it?
Yes, right.
Peaches
No.
and Herb.
But Leo, he says Leo Rowdens and Rod Black, who needed to be reunited because Rod's no longer on TSN because they parted ways because he was making too much money. But that's how it works in sports
Is that
media.
what he told you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, more or less. I can read between the lines.
By the way, Leo started on the Fan, and Jack Armstrong and Chuck Swirsky started on the Fan.
Okay, Chuck Swirsky.
Anyway, there you
I
go.
was on a Zoom
Sorry.
with Chuck yesterday.
Okay. So
joke.
finish
Okay.
your story.
Get your salami and
Just more names since we were talking. Salami and cheese.
Salami and cheese. Get your salami and cheese.
Are we at the
for
2
Chuck
hour,
Swirsky.
20
We're almost,
minute
we're almost done here.
mark
So basically, yes, that came up with Leo and Rod Black that there was no guarantee this franchise was going to make it. Like this was not a slam dunk, pun intended. It was really now it's cooking all. But they thought the Vancouver franchise seemed like the better bet at the time. Anyways, the Grizzlies, and where are they now? But much love to the Raptors.
Well, and there was no reason that the Grizzlies really had to leave when they left. That was a David Stern screw up that he allowed them to be moved to Memphis. And it was basically, it had to do with the guy who, remember the American guy bought the team? What was his name? Anyways, and then he just decided he was moving them. But, I mean, that franchise could have made it in Vancouver.
yeah, it's a shame, but we got to bring back the Grizzlies, bring back the Expos.
Some young woman, you're on top of this, did a wonderful
Excuse me?
feature on finding
Phrasing, Gord.
no finding Big Country. It was wonderful.
Brian Reeves.
Yeah, no, but it was a great. She,
Okay,
hunted him, wonder what happened, and it was just a wonder. I can't remember what it was called, but
I gotta find this.
wonderful, like 1 hour, 90-minute feature.
Interesting. Yeah, what happened to Big Country? Okay, because I remember it was Damon Stoudemire and Big Country. Those were your first picks there. I want your take. One more, this is going to be it from me. Then it's basically you guys can just drain the swamp because Damien's could have fallen asleep here. But Live Golf. I know that expression's been ruined. But Live Golf. What is your take on this, Damien? You've been very vocal on this on Twitter, but I'm just curious what you guys think of the disruptor that is Live Golf.
So Gord and I have been around so long that we've seen these rival leagues from the WHA to the USFL to the WFL. Don't forget the WFL to the end of the ABA to
What was the auto racing one? IRL versus
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
It was
So
kart.
this has always been
Kart,
going
yeah.
on, and sometimes I think now that I've seen it happen so many times, your perspective changes because you realize it's just business. People want to look at it as though there's good and bad people, this, that, and the other. With respect to the golf thing, these golfers are not under contract. They should be able to play where they want to play because the PGA could solve all this by giving them guaranteed contracts. But instead, they won't guarantee them a dime a year. Well, they're going to have to. And the thing that now all of a sudden people who want to support the PGA have all become experts on human rights in Saudi Arabia,
Right.
to which I acknowledge are deeply within question. But I would say the United States does $40 billion of business with Saudi Arabia every year. You want golfers to stand up and make the difference.
Right.
And does every sponsor on the PGA, are they all clean of any investments in Saudi Arabia? And beyond that, like the hypocrisy of it all, to point at these golfers and say that they're wrong because they want to make the most money they can. They should be playing for the love of the game. It's a bunch of crap. So I don't
take the money and run.
watch Live Golf.
Right.
I'm probably not going to. I think those guys should be able to play where they want to play until someone else gives them a guaranteed contract.
Well, and you're going a little more depth about it. We're the viewers and the audience, and if we didn't like the ABA, we didn't watch it. If we didn't like the WHA as much, you just didn't watch it. And right now, selfishly, I like to watch, like say, the British Open, where it's more that it set up the pairings. I can follow it rather than the shotgun start and what have you. But hey, every other time, it's just interesting. It's the golfers that are dumping on it, but it helped the athletes in every other sport. Like that's
And
the
it's
thing.
helping
Like,
the athletes
they NHL players from their day will say thank you World Hockey Association because that was a thing that maybe overcorrected salaries based on revenues coming in then. But yeah,
Now,
so be it.
I'm not a golf guy, but I do remember that the kart Indy split ruined that sport for me because I was used to seeing who was it? Paul Tracy,
Yeah.
Jacques, but I remember I would watch every weekend, and then suddenly with the split, it was like it wasn't the best on best anymore.
But why? Because they wouldn't let guys do the same, and that's what is going to happen to golf. unless they can find an accommodation. Right now, you can play on the European Tour and play on the PGA and play on the PGA and play on the European Tour. Why live golf is so different when we just saw the British Open, where I think 2 of the top 10 guys in the finishers were live golfers. There's no reason to do it. Let the best guys play wherever they want to play.
Now, the IRL, I think, had something like that they were the weaker league, but they had the Indy 500.
Right.
So it'd be like,
and that killed the Indy 500.
yeah, and it would be
That's
like
right.
it'd be like Liv has the Masters. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like all of a sudden, that would be so. That was a bit of a different.
Or like the
component.
WHA had
That's
the
right.
Stanley Cup or something. Like
The Avco, that was right. Well, no, the Cup's a cup, but the Avco Cup, where is it? Named after an insurance company, Avco Financial. That was the World Hockey Association trophy.
That's funny. But the Gord and Damien podcast I'm going to produce will be searching for the Avco Cup. We're going to figure this out here. Okay, so
we're gonna have a really nice studio too. We're gonna
Nicer than this?
We're gonna spend all
that
kinds of
possible?
money. We're gonna have it'll be huge losses,
And we'll look for the Hardy's Cup. That was for indoor football.
and we'll order licks.
Remember, the
Licks-
key-
is Licks still in
Licks.
business?
oh, I don't think so. Is it?
So we
Gord
can't
would
order
know.
licks for lunch?
Jeez, it's not there.
Just
Yeah.
eat Palma pasta. I'll take care of you. Oh, by the way, because I want to put this on this episode so people know, including you too, especially you, Damien, because of how close you
Especially
live.
me.
Especially you. September 1st from 6 to 9 p.m. is the 10th TMLX event. That is TMLXX.
Have you gone to one of
And
these?
Listen, I've been inviting you guys to these events. I don't think either of you have ever made an appearance. Kevin McGran was at the last one. Garrett Joyce comes to these. There's a lot of people you know and love who come to these. David Schultz has been on a lot of these cool cats. Mark Hebscher. You come to this event, please. It is at the Great Lakes location in southern Etobicoke. So short drive for you, Damien. A little longer for you, Gord. But
Well, if
September
Gord-
1st,
if
6 to
Gord
9
picks me
p.m.
up, if you pick me up.
So you guys got to make an appearance, and Palma Pasta will feed you. You get a free beer from Great Lakes. It'll be a great time. There's going to be some wonderful musicians, including one from the Hammer, but some great musicians are going to do some acoustic jams.
Who's from the Hammer?
Tom Wilson.
Oh yeah, I like Tom Wilson.
Tom Wilson, diehard.
Did he retire from hockey?
That's it. There's so many Tom Wilsons. Biff from
Hardy
Back
Boys?
to the Future.
Oh,
Is a Tom Wilson as well. There's a whole bunch of them here. Okay, so we're going to close. Before I play Lowest of the Low, who have been at a TMLX event and played, before I play Lowest of the Low and say goodbye, I want you each get a chance to ask each other a question. So, Gord, do you have a question for Damien on our way out? Anything you've always wanted to ask him? This is the live mic. I'm not editing. What would you like to ask Damien before we close?
yeah, okay. I don't know. So I'll do stream of consciousness. It's funny being at the family cottage on the weekend and talking to Lisa's brother Dave and memories about when you were up. I
How
mean,
is Dave?
Like he's great. He's
Good.
great. Guy running the auto show and be back running the Canadian International Auto Show. It's after a 2-year hiatus. So I don't know. It was just fun. Like we hung together so much at each other's weddings and things like that. So it's just sort of been a fun social part. I think part of our radio show was we asked it on air. We didn't. That's part of what was fun to be on for 4 hours. So when you said is there something I didn't ask him, whatever I had to ask him
Right.
was we did it on air because we had all the time in the world to fill.
Right.
Like clandestine wise, I don't. Everything was kind of wide open, and it was just kind of fun. I don't know. Last little while we haven't professionally been together, and we've all you get your own lives, own directions. So.
Yep.
Oh, but how about you invite me to golf again and I'll thank you.
No.
Yeah, this time I'll thank you
I'm
again.
not, and tell Gabby I'm not inviting him.
I don't,
either.
Gabby, Bruce Boudreau, but yeah, why not?
Right.
Like that's crap.
Wait,
on
what?
his part. Well, he just shows up, plays, drinks
Yeah.
beer, and then leaves.
Okay, well, I'll get him to thank you. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, I want more than
anyway, I
thanks.
appreciated that, but no, the whole Damien experience was a pleasure for me. I wish I could have a fun trash of him right now, but I don't. and probably when. Yeah, it's again. I don't know because I don't think there's something. I was never afraid to ask you anything, and you were never afraid, to
Gordon
ask
and I have
me
been
something.
through a lot. But unfortunately, Gordon, I think this is a question. I'll try to put this in the form of a question. I think you've spent an inordinate amount of time defending our friendship and me that you've had to say.
I have to defend our
that-
friendship.
Yeah,
Damien.
but I think Gord is, I think this is true. I think Gord actually knows me, which is most people don't actually know me.
You were
Because Gordon and I have been through a lot
Yeah,
together,
yeah,
personally, and some ups and downs.
Yeah, we talked to each other about that and that, and actually one of them was, of all people, we had a long drive to an enormous help for the book was Alan Eagleson. The 67 team. We had and it was a great visit in 2003 with him in Collingwood, and that. So what was the other one I was thinking about? But Yeah, we've talked about everything.
I am sorry about all the time you
Oh.
spend defending me.
I said you're like my media partnership, like Harold Ballard, defending him because he was a real. If you met him, your first thing you'd say was, "What a nice guy." You really would. That would be the thing. And Damien's kind of that version. all those years later.
There you go.
I had a tweet when I announced you were coming on, and one of the tweets was, "My condolences, Gord."
See?
Was one of the tweets. So one of the
Give a
common
shout out
themes.
to my mom, will you? Thank you. Thank you, Rhoda.
Guys, I would do this anytime. What a thrill, and thanks so much for making the trek and coming on together.
It's a long way
Awesome.
to come for me.
What time's your limo here at?
Hey, why don't you shout out what are you guys up to these days? Like maybe Damien, what are you up to these days professionally?
I still write a couple of columns a week for the Toronto Star. I'm in my 5th decade of writing for the Toronto Star.
Wow.
I can believe it.
Going for Milt's record.
And other than that, working on golf and being a dad.
Well, being a dad's phenomenal. And brother Bob became a grandfather. I meant to tell you
no
that.
way.
James, a couple of weeks ago, little
Say
Griffin
congratulations
was
for me.
born.
Wow.
So, weekday mornings, I'm on a break now, but I've really enjoyed morning show on Sirius XM NHL
Why do you
Network
never
Radio.
invite me on?
I think you're invited on, aren't you? Okay. Anyway, I can't
Not
remember.
coming.
So, and then I've been fortunate to carry on the fan as Leafs Nation pre and post game, and hoping one more time like that Leaf equity is a deep playoff run, so we can have some fun like we did with the Raptors a couple
Or even a
years ago.
shallow run, but just a run.
Something.
18
So-
years since we had a run.
So
We never
anyway.
told you about. Do you want to hear one more story?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Let
We
me
never
share.
told you about, and this actually got the Gordon Damien show off the ground because the Leafs won Game 7 in Detroit on a Saturday night. I think I'm right.
Yeah.
We drove back to Toronto. This
Yeah.
was in '93.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We drove back to Toronto that night. Got about 2 hours sleep. Got up and did a radio show.
Yeah.
And the city was
Oh, yeah.
crazy about it. And people were calling in and doing.
Because
all
we were
sorts of
doing our
stuff.
Sunday show, yeah.
And that's when it was really evident. Okay, we get what this could
So
be.
I was driving with Lisa to Detroit, and you cheapskate, I picked you up somewhere in the 401. You parked your car. So the three of us, we went, and Borshevsky scored in overtime.
Yeah.
And then we decided to come back, and we gave Mark Askin, the producer, a ride as well.
Oh, yeah?
So the four of us,
How does he remember
and
this?
we're
memory.
driving, and then we're listening to a replay of the game, like Joe Poe and myself. Doing play-by-play in color, and then we pull over to hear the Borshevsky goal again, like at 3 a.m. And you're right, and they hadn't expected us at the fan, but we said no, we'll be good from 9 to 12. So we showed up on a Sunday morning, and it was just electric, and we were smart to do that. That was a good career move.
Good career move.
decision.
And that was also that was the mullet years for Damien, because in that Passion Returns cassette, I
Yep.
bought that Passion
Yep.
Returns. Damien's got the mullet. So
Yeah, and
Passion Returns.
I've got the David Cassidy, Keith Partridge shirt. I had to go water it right after.
And that brings us to the end of our 1084th show. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Toronto Mike. If he doesn't block you, Damien is at Damo Spin.
Damo spin.
Damo Spin.
I hate when people.
Pasta.
He does that on
pasta.
purpose, you know. He calls me Damo because he knows it drives
Because Leo
me
Kale called you Damo. When you started, Leo called you
That's
Damo.
30 years ago.
I know.
And Gord, you're at Gord Stellick?
Yeah, it wasn't taken, so I'm at Gord Stellick. And I don't know how to block you.
Our friends at Great Lakes Brewery are at Great Lakes Beer. Palma Pasta is at Palma Pasta. Sticker U is at Sticker U. Doer are at Doer Performance. Make sure we get a great photo together outside. It'll be fantastic.
There'll be a fee.
Then you don't get a lasagna. Ridley Funeral Home are at Ridley FH. And Canna Cabana are at Canna Cabana _. See you all Thursday night, 8 p.m. The return of Toast with Stu Stone and Cam Gordon.